Everything I've tried to do technology wise has been.
Okay, hold on a sec. One, you roll one.
That's it. I'm gonna keep
So he just walked out. My computer's not done.
Okay, never mind, Josh.
Walked out.
Thank you.
I'm going to call this special meeting of the Page Unified School District Board. It's a regular meeting, Tuesday, April the 14th at 5:19. And folks, welcome. Under the, you know what, this is a historic time, don't you know? And everybody out there, I'm just running into people that left and right are behaving like heroes, and that's awesome. A good portion of our staff behaving like heroes. I know a lot of you guys on the res desk. Boy, I tell you, it's not easy stuff, but we're going to see not only the tunnel but the light at the end, and we'll be excited to get through this for sure as a community. So let's go ahead and get this started with a roll call.
Desiree Fowler, Board Clerk.
Rob Varner, Superintendent.
Dave McGarry.
Ed Franklin.
Sandra Kidman.
Bob Candelaria, and of course, without Ms. Hoffman, nothing would happen. Our executive assistant, thank you so much, Lynn. And let's go ahead and enter in a moment of silent meditation. Thank you very much. And Rob, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
The
America
United States of America, and to the republic.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Action item approval of the agenda. I need a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve the agenda. Desiree Fowler. I second that agenda. Dave McGarry.
Can we have a motion in the second? All in favor, say aye.
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 The second item, we don't have any comments. We've got another action item under special business. Oh, we don't have anything under there, do we?
Bob, there is, I think you could probably have Desiree read that, the donations.
Okay, go ahead, Beth, please.
Oh, I see it. Okay, sorry. A check in the amount of $450 was donated by SRP to the Page High School Unity Club. 2, a check in the amount of $100 was donated by Matilda Berth for the 5th grade field trip. Those are the only 2 donations that I see on our agenda.
That's the only one we have, Beth.
Need a motion in a second.
Yes, we also need a motion
That's
and
the
a
only one?
second.
That's the only one we have?
Yes,
Okay. Need a motion and a second, please?
I make that motion to approve the donations that are listed. Desiree Fowler.
I'll second the motion. Ed Franklin.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Good. An exciting presentation. Rob Garner and Jeannie Wood on Project Elevate.
Yes, very excited to discuss Project Elevate. The school district has received a substantial grant to participate, and talking to incoming Superintendent Mr. Wallen today. He has been part of this Project Elevate, so he's definitely behind our work here. Project Elevate will have about 20 some members to it as a district team. I believe the total amount, Jeannie, correct me, I know you're out there, about $250,000 as a grant, 18-month program. The highlights, I don't want to read everything to you, but the highlights are really to build instructional infrastructure, create a culture of high expectations and a culture of learning, evidence-based talent management system, which really deals with your human resources piece, and then of course to grow the the achievement and close the achievement gap. So, like I mentioned, it's a 2-year program built around culture, talent management, and instructional infrastructure. And a lot of pieces go to it. All the members did a strength finder. Talked about what your strengths are so we could build on our strengths. Mine happens to be responsibility and harmony were my top 2. Then of course we build a lot of professional learning around this piece. We do have a ongoing mentor, Melinda Baez, who's part of our team from the outside, coming in with fresh eyes, really helping us give us some guidance and direction on some 90-day plans that our principals are working on right now with the consultant. So it's very exciting. We should see quite a bit of growth. And I think, Mr. Wallen, you said you participated in this 2 or 3 years ago, and you support the program. So we talked a little bit about that today. So with that, any questions before I turn it over to Jeannie? We do have an approval of the grant to be just some signatures to upload tonight. So Jeannie, over to you.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
Good. Just as a continuation to what Superintendent Varner shared with you, the Systemic Leadership Grant, which funds Project Elevate, is a continuation grant. This would be the second year that we would apply, and we do need to apply to continue on with this to be implemented within our district. Last year, we applied for an amount of $100,000, and it would look to be the same amount that we would apply for this year in the continuation grant. Just to put this in context for you, it is not local entitlement money that we use or earn when we received the award for this title money. It's state level Title I set-aside money that districts apply for. It's highly competitive. And with that, we are to commit to certain things within our district. Again, the 3 tenets of the grant are instructional infrastructure, talent management, and creating a culture of learning. They really look at districts that are in need of additional support to build systems to make them successful. Last year, when we applied for this grant in year 1, one of my primary questions that I asked our support person at the Department of Education was, is this feasible for us to think about applying for this grant? Because we knew there would be a lot of transitions within positions. And her response was no, that actually made us more attractive in a sense, because the idea is if you start building these high leverage strategies according to what we learn in there, that even with transitions happening, the idea is that systems will remain intact. So that was nice to hear, and we were very pleased when we were awarded this grant money last year. There are different convenings that take place. 23 participants took place last year in a boot camp, and we were scheduled to have 2 convenings for this school year. The convening, which was scheduled May 6th, was canceled due to COVID-19. It was to be rescheduled as a virtual training, and then the decision was made that no, they did not want to continue with the virtual training this year, that the convenings will continue next year in August, October, January, and May. And the grant actually runs through October of 2021, which is when we would have our last convening. The convening consists of 3 days of training. Our first part, or the half day on the first day, has LEA admin team. The afternoon is building principals, and days 2 and 3 are all participants that take part in that. And what I'm asking for today is, when we consider the reapplication of this program, they are asking, because that's a substantial amount of money that we're being awarded, they asked for us to take the commitment seriously. And so they're saying we want, as a district, for us to adhere to all program requirements, including the completion of the program planning requirements in the 90-day plan. The 90-day plan has been very important to us. Our Project Elevate coach, Melinda, has been working currently with our building principals, she and I together, as teams are writing their integrated action plans to then support them in how we're going to look at 90-day plans to better monitor our work moving forward. We've heard from multiple districts that the ability to write and monitor according to a 90-day plan has been a game changer in a lot of districts. So we're very excited about that work. It continues to say that they want participation of leadership to attend the convening and come back and do something with that information. It further reads that they want districts to have effective organization of time for weekly structured TLC meetings. Again, a continuation of the work learned. And finally, it requires that we monitor our schools more closely. LEA leadership, including the superintendent, regularly conduct site visits to focus on successful planning and implementation of program plans, i.e. the 90-day plan and or integrated action plan, and that we have a plan for the sustainability of systemic changes made as a result of the participation in the program. So what I'm asking tonight, again, is just the required signature from our our superintendent, but also from our board president saying that we are committed as a district to continue on with this work for year 2.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Okay, any questions before I go on to the 21st Century Community Learning Center grant?
Gene, you guys have been doing really great work because I've heard nothing but really good from people that are involved already. And I think this is going to really help us get a little bit more tools in the toolbox that really help our leadership move. And so, yeah, I think it's a great opportunity.
I agree.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Have any questions?
Bob D has a question for Jeannie.
Yeah, I just want to ask. I know we have 2 different kinds of strategic plans that's ongoing. I was wondering. Oh, I was just kind of wondering how they align with how well we are doing in relation to our strategic plans that we have.
I'm sorry, Dee, you kind of cut out, and so I wasn't able to hear your question. Would you please repeat it?
Jeannie, she's talking about the alignment with our ongoing strategic plan. I know there's some elements within our strategic plan that align to Project Elevate, but some things we may need to look at in regards to the strategic plan.
So when we talk about this, again, the strategic plan provides an overall vision to us, but when we talk about making actionable decisions moving forward, our schools write a site plan, the school integrated action plan, and then we write an LIAP, a district integrated action plan, or an LEA integrated action plan. The work that we're doing within Project Elevate and our participation in this is in clear alignment to the district vision of moving forward to improve academic achievement. And the 90-day plan will be in direct alignment to the strategies and action steps that site level teams are writing right now as part of their continuous improvement plan or integrated action plan.
Thank you, that answers my question.
Did I answer your question, Dee?
Yes, you answered her question.
Perfect. Any other questions before I move to the 21st Century grant?
No questions from us.
Okay. Thank you. The 21st Century Community Learning Center grant And again, embedded within my board report, I just shared some of the high-level purposes of a 21st century program. Again, this is learning that takes place during non-school time. So that can be either programs that happen before school, after school, or within our summer school programs. Just to put within context, we had no schools this year that were funded by the 21st Century Community Learning Center grant. Our last school that had that funding was Lakeview, and they concluded year 5 last school year. At the federal level, there was talk for many years that this funding source might go away, and then it actually did opposite of that. It not only didn't go away, but there was increased funding source. So 21st Century is part of 4B, Title 4B. So recently, we received guidance of increased flexibility in terms of our entitlement money and where, or our grants, and where there was a May 1 deadline established. We received information that with everything going on right now, they were going to extend the deadline from May 1 to July 1 for schools, because we understand that our needs are very different than any other time period we've had. And although it's important work to focus on your planning right now, schools are dealing with a lot. So we were happy to receive that flexibility. However, I reached out to our local 21st Century inbox at the Department of Education just to ease my mind more than anything to say, hey, does this deadline also apply to competitive grants? The response I received Friday afternoon was that it did not, that the 21st Century Community Learning Center grant would have a deadline of May 1 as originally announced. So we have school teams that are intently focused on this work right now. We're building some programs as we speak, and our current structure is we are funding current after-school programming opportunities within Title I, and we are funding current summer school programming opportunities out of Title V or RLIS. If successful in this grant, and 4 of our school sites are going out, Manson Mesa High School, unfortunately, is not eligible to apply for these monies because they don't have enough students attending their school to make them eligible to apply. This grant is a 5-year grant, $120,000 per school site for years 1, years 2, and year 3. Year 4, that amount drops to $90,000, and year 5, it's half, $60,000. So in totality, for each school site, that would be $510,000 over the course of 5 years. And when we talk about 4 of our school sites applying for that money, that's $2 million potential money for programs for after school, before school, and summer school programming. 21st Century really does focus on 3 main frameworks: an academic framework, a youth development framework, and a family engagement framework. Teams really are looking at how to engage students differently. Yes, the main purpose is to support students in their development of giving them educational opportunities for literacy and related educational development to enhance their learning, with a focus on literacy, math, and science. We also use the acronym STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math for that. So we're excited about that work moving forward. The signature page, and Board President Candelaria would need to sign 4 signature pages for this work, again, is an assurance on our part that we are going to focus on developing programs that meet the intent of the grant purpose. And this is the most important part. Programs must be continually evaluated to assess progress towards meeting the grant objectives in the area of academic, youth development, and family engagement. So again, by signature of both our superintendent, our building principal, and our board president, it's showing our ability to work together to build quality programs for our students. Any questions about the 21st Century Grant?
Not a question, but yeah, I've just been thinking about when our kids come back to school, and I was talking to somebody about two things. One, PTSD for our staff, and this wouldn't have anything to do with it, but PTSD for our kids. Because when you go through something like this, your life's not the same anymore. And I'm just saying, you know, we've got to have our kids and try to do as much as we can to put them in a position to be successful. But and I don't. This may be out of line with regard to this, or I don't know if there's money involved in that we could actually extract. But I think that's going to be a huge issue coming back.
I will tell you that I sat in a meeting with a team today from one of our school sites, and as we were going over and reviewing the frames attached to that, one of the categories is social emotional learning. And although this money in particular could be used to support that, I absolutely am in agreement with you that this will need to be an issue that we address not only within our after school, before school, and summer school programs, but that's going to be an issue for 100% of our students. So we will need to see that resolution come not only from how we're building this program in particular, but just across the board.
Okay, well, it's good to hear that because it's just, that's something we're going to have to really deal with.
Absolutely. That will be a great identified need. Absolutely.
Thank you, Jeannie.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, guys? Okay, not hearing any. Jeannie, thank you so much. Look forward to signing those.
Thank you, Jeannie. I know that 21st Century is a great program for our students here, so I look forward to seeing more 21st Century programs within our school district.
Thank you. We do as well. It's highly, highly competitive, but teams really talk about the idea of building a program, and we hope that we, of course, receive the grant funding to go with it, but there's something to be said about the process of working through that and looking at how we address programming in general.
Definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks. Liz?
Yes.
Did someone have something else?
No, you're good, Bob.
Okay. Going on to number 4, reports. Governing board reports. Ed, you want to kick us off?
I'm gonna pass it along to Dee, and come back to me at the end. I'm still writing out my info here, sorry.
Okay.
Bob, mine is not a report. I just want to make a comment. I read mainly all the reports that were written by the directors regarding learning all the work that they've been doing. I just want to say kudos for the hard work that you all are doing with developing the educational packet, online learning, and also delivering food out to the community. Just want to say thank you for all the work that's being done. Yeah.
Ed?
Well, I'll probably add on to what you was just saying with the food and everything else, but not only that, it's also the packages and everything else that the superintendent have taken action on to make sure those are getting out to the kids and the time frames and everything else. And I'm going to tell you, I went over there one of the days and I just stood outside my car just to watch. And first of all, I got told to hop back in my car when you can't get out your car. But it was just an idea of, the timing and everything, the new one coming through. those individuals are putting a whole lot of time to do a great job, and to also have the access where you can go on Google also from home to look at all these assignments also. This really helps out for kids to have something to work on. And I can tell you, with my grandson, that little knucklehead thought he was going to get away, but he's not. This really helps out.
Awesome. Sandra, you got something?
Yeah, I just wanted to shower a little praise on our teachers and our schools because, as you know, I have 5 kids in 5 different schools, and in the last few weeks, I've been contacted by every one of my teachers, sometimes several times, to check on my kids, see how they're doing, see if they need anything, how they're doing with, their Google Classroom. I've had teachers give my kids their personal phone numbers so they can contact them if they have any questions. And I was just really encouraged, and I'm hoping that that's happening all over the district, and I'm pretty sure it is reading the board report. And so I'm just really impressed with how much people are reaching out and trying to, help the students in our district. And I just want to mention how I think how wonderful that is, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sandra. Des, you ready?
Definitely. Well, I appreciate the reports that each of our board members have given, but I must say, to be honest, my experience was definitely on the opposite end, and there has been a lot of communication that has happened between myself, the board president, and the superintendent to make sure that our students in rural communities are being served to the best of our knowledge and also given the best opportunity of education. And I must say, from day one, I have been expressing the needs of our students' instructional packets and also the meals. But more importantly, I'm grateful that I was able to have these communication within the recent few days with Varner here, and we were able to make this communication where we were able to get instructional packets to the reservation and also meals again, because for a while there we were doing a dancing limbo. We're serving, no, we're not, yes, we are. But again, we as board members need to be very aware of what is going on out in rural communities and educate ourselves, ask questions. And that is, again, it's great to hear everyone's report, but the thing is, in reality, internet service on the reservation is very horrible. So again, Google Classroom is, accessible at a low need at this time and point. And then also, I really did have an opportunity to talk to teachers and even other parents and, ask them how school instructions are happening. And, teachers have mentioned a few connections were made, and it's a new opportunity to really connect to families now, not through the internet, definitely not a phone call, but it's some people, it's actually doing FaceTime or texting. So I appreciate that we are going out of our way to make opportunities happen for children academically, and then also meeting the needs again of our students and families, because again, being on the reservation, I experience it, live it, and breathe it on a daily basis. And I really would like for us to continue to advocate for children in the rural communities, because they are the ones that really do populate enrollment here in our Page Unified School District. And I do want to mention that I did receive a concern from a family member from Kaibito, who is very concerned of the chapter official, Franklin Fowler, being out serving meals because, health being a priority, and the individual does have some health concerns that is very, very highly known among the family. So they had shared their concerns with me earlier today, saying that, okay, why is this chapter official out there serving food, but it needs to come back to the school district and having our staff provide meals. But again, that's a communication that I've received. And then it's also amazing to hear, other areas where we have one individual or, I don't know how many seniors out there, but we have a student who has been driving into Page from Pybito to get the internet service and then also to complete his schoolwork so that he can graduate. And then you have a family where that entire family is quarantined together. And another incident where we have the parents are quarantined together. Well, the oldest son, who is a high school student, who has definitely taken hands-on among for his family and just really providing for his family. I mean, kudos to everyone that is out there. And then also, we're all going through this COVID-19 in our own way. But again, there are families that are definitely being hit fairly hard. And I want to mention that we do have a student who was a student here, but his entire family, both parents, grandma, and an aunt, who are definitely fighting for their lives right now. So I mean, prayers out to them. But thank you again for everyone's involvement, and I appreciate Mr. Varner and for this opportunity to get our instructional packets out to the reservation and to have food available to the reservation as well too. And my understanding is we have food in Bitter Springs too coming up, so I appreciate that.
Yep.
This is Dee. I just have a question in regards to what method of tracking are you using, Mr. Varner, in regards to making contact? You have to figure out that.
I will get the principals to report on that. I know that they're working with their teachers on that. I do not have that data tonight.
Well, I was kind of concerned regarding the regression since they're not picking up, some not picking up their packets or returning their packets.
I think that goes on records.
I know how many I can get a number of how many we passed out and how many teachers have been on Google Docs and the response we have. So I can get that number for you. That's going to take a little time. I do have all our food numbers with me tonight.
Right now, many of our students are what we call the virtual learning. I was kind of wondering about the physical learning. How successful is it? Are the students returning their packets?
We don't want the packets, because of the COVID virus, the packets go out, they don't come back in. The group that we're working with very closely is getting our seniors to graduation. So I'll cover all that in my report. One of the things that I was asked to do is, in the other part was put together a report, and I've done so.
Okay, that was another question that I had in regards to graduation.
Okay.
So that would be on item B, right?
That will be on item B, yes, on graduation, absolutely.
All right, Bob, back to you. Mr. Candelaria?
Hello?
You're up, Bob.
I said up front, kind of what I wanted to say, but I'll pick on somebody pretty hard, and that's going to be, when all of these things are going on, there's people that everyone funnels into, and one person I'd really like to just acknowledge is Lynn, because she handles a switchboard virtually, and has to deal with so many people with all of the issues that we talk about. So I really appreciate Lynn stepping up. Thank you so much. Dr. Varner, report.
Thank you, Bob. Oh,
Yes, she did.
Oh, she did, okay, sorry.
so currently up to date on our food service, we have served 13,578 meals, and that's up to today. So we're hoping to grow those. The last 2 days, we've served around just under 1,000 each day. So we're the word of mouth is getting out there. What we're finding the first day, 2 of our chapters ran out of food, so we have to monitor and adjust. We are adding Bottleway Gap on Monday. We worked with President Yellman out there, and we have a permission and a way to go. We do know that we have some holes in our packets and information, educational opportunities. I'm meeting with 4 of our Navajo teachers on Friday to have a conference call to how do we brainstorm some ideas of how to get to those farthest areas in our district. We know that currently we are delivering packets along with the food to the locations that the chapter president gave us, but we need to expand. We need to expand beyond just that, because we know that some folks are without vehicles, some folks are maybe not have the financial means for gas and other things. And we also talked a little bit about the when you're needing money, the first thing you get rid of is your cell phone and your technology at your home. So how do we reach beyond what we currently do? I want to kudos to Steve and Suzanne for that communication that we're constantly sending out. And so thank you guys for your communication. We know this ain't a perfect thing. We know there's a lot of struggles out there, not only in town, but particularly out to our chapter friends. We know that every day is a different adventure. For the last 2 weeks, I've been on a roller coaster myself with news. We have a handful, probably more than a handful of our own staff members with COVID-19 or have been exposed. So we have folks that are isolated. We had another report yesterday about another staff member that was tested. So it's hitting all of us in different ways. I want to thank the staff for following the CDC guidelines, and you can see we're social distancing here up here as best we can to bring you this board meeting tonight. So we have superstars in our midst. The food services, in my opinion, for the last 15 days have been superstars. They wake up early. We have had volunteers, we've had bus drivers, we've had staff members, all helping put those meals together. Of course, they're not handling food. I just want to make that clear, but they're helping putting those meals together. We've had volunteers to drive the vans out, and I want to thank the chapter presidents for working with us on having a point of location and a person out there, and it was kind of cool to hear President Fowler volunteering along with our delegate Paul Begay out at Kaibito. So kudos to them and our other chapter officials. Thank you so much. We have chapter managers and things like that are supporting the students. So as this thing starts peaking, and hopefully we flatten the curve, we can get more PUSD folks out there. Right now, we're just trying to flatten that curve, and the curve is still going up. Unfortunately, Page in the surrounding area is at 62 cases, and then we know it's triple that number, almost a little over 200 just south of us. So we're all working together to get rid of this virus. It's kind of crippling our community in many ways, both socially, emotionally, and financially. So working together, we can make a difference with our kids' lives. And you're right, Bob. Desiree, the social emotional issue will be one that we'll have to deal with, not only for our students, but our staff as well. So this has been a trying time for all of us, and most important that we all stick together and work for the same common good, and that's for our students and our staff and our community. So thank you, and that's my report.
All right, Dr. Warner, thank you for all your hard work. It's not easy to juggle all the balls up in the air and have to deal with this official and that official and that official, but you're getting it done, so keep up the good work.
It's been the highlight of my career, Mr. Candelaria.
Item number 7, I don't think we have anything on the calendar of events. 8, additional agenda items.
Bob, you
item A is-
jumped, Bob, you jumped the consent agenda.
Oh, I jumped a couple? Oh, I jumped the consent agenda. I apologize. Okay, we have no unfinished business. Governing board consent agenda. And Des, could you read the statement?
Definitely. A copy of the consent agenda is available at the district administration office. All items listed will be considered as a unit by the governing board and will be approved with one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items unless a board member requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a separate item.
Okay, we've got a consent agenda, an action item. I'll need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second that motion.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item number 7, calendar of events. 8,
Can I mention something on the calendar events, Mr. President?
sure, absolutely.
We have not removed the graduation for our seniors yet. We are doing everything we can to have that graduation, whether it's the traditional graduation or a alternative graduation. Our goal is to honor our seniors. Currently, we are doing the Friday night lights. We turn the football lights on every Friday night for 20 minutes for the class of 20, just to start recognizing all their accomplishments. But we are not counseling graduation. We are going to do whatever we can to honor those seniors this year.
Good, awesome. Very good. Additional agenda item, hiring of Lakeview primary principal Nancy Warner for the 2020-2021 school year. I need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to approve the hiring of Nancy Warren of the principal for Lakeview Primary for the 2020-21 school year.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Thank you. We've got a motion and a second. Rob Warner.
Nancy's been with us for 18 years in PUSD. She grew up here. She graduated from Page High School. She has a vast amount of experience. I want to thank the Lakeview Committee, the District Office Committee. The superintendent did not have a vote in this, so I took their recommendations, and the recommendation was Nancy Warner. And so she's been an instructional coach, a lead teacher, literacy coach. Of course, she was a director in our district office and also a PD coordinator. So she has the pedigree that we're looking for to really take Lakeview to the next level. So I recommend Nancy Warner for principal of Lakeview Primary.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Can I ask how many years of experience she has as a principal?
she has not had any years of experience as a principal. She has years of experience as a director in the school district and a district coordinator.
All right, thank you. Bob, back to you.
Say aye. Aye.
Are you asking for a vote, Bob?
I mean, what's that?
Are you asking for a vote?
Yes, I'm calling for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Sandra?
Aye. Bob,
Okay, we've got four ayes.
Bob, for the record, I abstain.
Okay, we got four ayes and one abstention. The motion passed. The motion passes. All right, next item on the agenda, superintendent contract for Larry Wallen for the 2020-2021/2022 school years. I need a motion and a second.
I make a motion to approve superintendent's contract for Larry Wallens for the 2020-21, 2022 school year.
I second that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. It's been my pleasure I really appreciate the board for giving me the latitude to negotiate the contract with Larry Wall, and I got to know him a little bit better. I worked with Ben Hufford, and Ben is a delight. He's very, very knowledgeable, and he knows Larry very, very well. Matter of fact, he threatened to quit the profession if we hired Larry, so I don't know what that was all about, but and he was joking, of course, because they've known each other for quite a long time. So, Larry, I gave you some guidance. We went into negotiation and took probably about 3 different conversations or 4, and it was really an easy negotiation in terms of what we settled in on. I have the document, I think, mailed to you this past week for the weekend. And so I hope people have a chance to take a look at it. Now, we can go one of 2 ways. If you have questions about the contract, or we can go down to some of the major points, however you want to do it. I'll just start off this way. The contract right now is stipulated in the agenda. We would enter into the contract with Larry on this day, the 14th. And then the term of the contract would be, lease to serve in the capacity for a period commencing July 1st, 2020, ending June 30th, 2022. Understood and agreed that the parties of the contract shall be subject to all conditions. The board may consider an extension of the contract in May of 2021. The compensation, the range for it was $120,000 to $150,000. We agreed on a $140,000 contract. Let's see here. And a lot of boilerplate information, but much of what Rob has gotten in terms of his contract, stipends for benefits, for insurance, short-term disability. Larry also chose to do a car allowance, $500 per month, instead of using a district vehicle. And then a stipend of $6,000, as I mentioned, that was a stipend for his other benefits, insurance, and that kind of thing. Just, let's see, is there anything here? Basic vacation, sick leave, and all that, according to that's standard across the board in the district. And I don't know if there's any. We agreed upon a 3% fiscal year compensation at the end. And one thing that Larry and I talked about was setting up a kind of a performance evaluation based in total on student performance. So I'm kind of excited to see how that's going to work out. And we wanted to really conceptualize that as something that literally could be applied across the board for every principal, director, every teacher, staff people as well. So, did anyone have any questions or comments about it?
No comment.
Well,
No comment.
everybody okay with it? All right. Okay, hearing no comment, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye? Okay, I hear that's is that unanimous?
Yes.
Very, very good. Okay, the next issue was, we wanted to take advantage of the fact that Larry would be available. And, he was available, sooner than later. matter of fact, she already jumped in and rented a place, last week. He and his wife, I think, and they're moving
Bob,
in
we need
now.
to start off with a
So-
motion.
I'm sorry?
We need a motion.
Oh,
For discussion.
no.
Was
We
there a
haven't-
discussion?
Oh,
It's an action item.
on the interim contract? Yeah, hold on a second.
It's an action item, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
the interim
enough.
contract, we will need a motion and a second for it.
I make a motion to approve the interim contract for administrative service for Larry Wallen.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Thank you very much. I'll just continue. We wanted to take advantage of the fact that he would be available, and he's made himself available sooner than later. He's moved into town already, virtually. And so the interim contract, very, very simple. It would be a prorated based on his salary for his main contract. And it would start as soon as tomorrow. And so when Larry and I talked, we talked about what that will look like, and he's going to come in and assess Page Unified School District. He's going to come in and work through the superintendent, and he's put out, I think he's already put out a pretty detailed outline of the things that he wants to get accomplished. And if you're familiar with audits, what I've asked him to do and to present to the board is a systems and a process audit. Going through and seeing all the tools that we have, and then going through and seeing all of the systems we have in place and the process that we have in place to support it. So I'm excited about that, and he'll have the latitude to meet with whoever. He just has to make arrangements to Rob, and then he will be independent virtually, so that there's no confusion. He is not the superintendent until July the 1st. So it'll be important for everybody to understand that. But he will also be involved in decisions that will be made in terms of what it looks like going into next year. So I'm really excited for him to be on board. And this interim contract gives us kind of a heads up. I mean, a heads up on getting ready for next year. And Larry has already probably introduced himself to several of the staff, and he's going to get intimate with most everybody. So I'm excited about that. Any questions?
I do, Bob. I see the regular contract. So how many days are we talking about? We're going to be doing a couple of days out of the week? We're doing what? Because, this is going to be quite a bit additional in the long run. So what are we looking at? How many days out of the week are we talking about?
Well, he's put out a kind of a plan of attack, and
I heard that.
we haven't really spoken about specific days at this point. And I know where you're going with that, but we're paying him a rate about $500 a day.
Correct.
To get an assessment done, and we'll nail that down. At this point, he and I haven't talked about the specific days. He just submitted his plan, and we'll kind of leave it to him to manage that. So I don't know if that answers your question properly.
Not quite. I know the man I'm talking about some type of guideline. So, and I understand, but I think we should be looking at. We should be setting the number of days term also.
Well, I think that's a good point, Ed. Like I said, I'm super excited about taking advantage of his time up front, because I think this gives us a real benefit. But we'll nail that down.
No, what Lynn just told me was 3 to 4 days. Okay. All right.
Okay, good. Yeah, and I haven't seen the detail of his plan. I talked to him about, just the assessment part, and I know he's put that out, so.
Okay.
Any other questions,
No,
comments? We're good?
We're good. We're just excited to have Larry with us.
It's very rare we have 5 board members kind of pushing hard in the same direction with passion, and this was the case. And so I'm excited to have Larry, much like all of you. And so anyway, here we go, a new adventure, new opportunities. So yeah, that's great. I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Okay, I believe that's unanimous. Passes. So we've got a regular contract and also an interim contract in place. All righty, very, very good. The next item on the agenda, discussion and report on district's response to COVID-19 crisis, emergency declarations, and orders. And this is just a discussion item, Dr. Barnett.
Well, I look at my my calendar. This all started on March 13th with the declaration of the state of emergency to close all the schools on the Navajo reservation. So that was just before we started spring break at PUSD. So our teachers and most of our staff were gone. And so every time one of the officials made an announcement, whether it's an executive order or announcement, that had to get filtered out through different associations. Of course, the lawyers got involved in exactly what that means. And so every time an executive order came out with multiple pieces, because the declaration was always different than the public announcement. So you had to wait to get the hard copy to really read to what they were and then get the interpretations. So my best friend through a lot of this was our district attorney, helping us to make sense of it, our ASBA, ASA, other entities out there to make sense of a lot of this for us. So sometimes our response wasn't delayed due to the fact that the announcement was made. It was delayed due to the fact we had to get make sure we had the right interpretation from our council. So during that spring break, at the end of that spring break, Governor Ducey announced that 2-week closure to go through April the 10th. Our first initial response after that announcement really was just, do we extend spring break by that additional time period? Thinking that our children will be back on April the 13th. So we started our food program, and I just want to remind folks our food program ran like a summer food program. It's called a community meals program, which is different than your traditional food service. It was a volunteer program. School districts would have to apply. There was a lot of guidelines that they had to follow from the very beginning. Since those guidelines have been a little bit relaxed a little bit, for example, it used to be required that you could not give a meal unless a child was in the car. That has been relaxed to one driver being able to pick up a meal for all the children. So there was a lot of different guidelines that were happening. We saw the surge after that first week when we started serving. We had 5 points of distribution as we came out of spring break. Did a lot of planning out of spring break to make sure our food services were successful. And then we get to March 30th, and then Governor Ducey announces the schools will be closed. During that interim, I had several conference calls with Superintendent Hoffman I tried to get a little bit more information. She was our first conference. She was very unfamiliar with what was happening up here up north. That the biggest surge in the state happened between Navajo and Coconino County, and so we had some issues. So the governor came up with an announcement that morning, and then after that afternoon, we had his order to stay home, stay safe, stay connected, which meant what does that mean? And so throughout this whole process, we were following the Department of Education guideline for pandemic, which really focused on who were the essential staff. So we spent time to look at essential staff, and during that period, I want to thank the technology department to help some of our employees, particularly on the business side. And I know some others were able to do a lot of their work remotely to follow the CDC guidelines. So a lot of things were happening, and I shouldn't have to tell you that our numbers have not gone down. We have not flattened the curve. And then later that afternoon, I mean, that we had March 30th was a difficult day, trying to sort out exactly what the governor meant by both of those executive orders. And I prefaced earlier, we had to wait to see the hard copies of his executive orders to kind of sort out what exactly that meant through our associations and legal counsel. And then that afternoon, we had a passing of one of our workers, and so the food service division asked us to take that into account, and there was a decision to pull back to make sure none of our food service workers were infected, and so we had that going on for a couple of days. And I began working with Paul Begay and Lena Fowler to set up some conference calls with our chapter representatives. And through that conference call, we were able to hit distribution spots back to 4 of our chapters through that conference call. So I want to thank both of them for helping us with that. And there's been a lot of other executive orders. Governor Nez came out with a curfew, and then again came out with the longer 57-hour curfew that was implemented last weekend. So we're trying to balance the approach between the getting packets out, getting food out, with making sure that people are still working on the governor's initiative and the president's initiative of flattening the curve and keeping people safe and healthy. So there's been a lot of barriers, but I want to thank everyone for being part of the solution. I believe right now we have some good solutions in place to as a balance. It's not the best of everything. We still, like I mentioned in my board report, we still have some holes in our program. We love to be able to continue to have a full-blown food service program. We love to make sure everyone has their packets and access to the internet. We are working on some other things behind the scenes, because there's a chance, Larry and I talked a little bit about this, there's a chance the school doesn't open. So what are we going to do? How are we going to get access to all students from day one? So that's on our plate as well. We are doing some long-term planning just in case things don't go as well. I know the government's talking about restarting the economic engine of the United States, but constantly following the guidelines from the CDC, Coconino Health Department, Department of Education, and Governor Ducey's office, and respecting the President as his executive orders as well. And so combined with all those things, I believe we've done
a good job, not the perfect job, but a good job get to where we're at now. I feel like we can start getting back to normalcy. It's never going to be, I don't want to say this is the new normal, but trying to get back in the routine of serving our students and getting our teachers to work on those planning, the mapping, getting their rooms ready, working with we have a plan to work with our classified folks, the folks that are on administrative leave, or those who are sheltered in place, those who are sick or helping the sick, or those with pre-existing conditions, because those with a weakened immune system are the most at risk for the virus. So we're working very carefully with different staff members on their conditions right now. And again, we did have a test, COVID test yesterday, and every day is a new adventure during this whole process. So I'm open for questions. We did have just real quick, we did have a sizable donation from a food company that we were able to share with one of our chapters, which was exciting news as well. So let me know if there's any questions. But that I'm open, call me as questions come up. I want to thank Desiree has been a great resource. Let me know what's going on outside of town. There's a lot of people hurting out there, and we can do what we can do to help as much as we can. I want to appreciate the Fort Navajo teachers I'm meeting up with Friday to help brainstorm some ideas to serve our community out there as well. So that's my update.
Hey, Rob.
All right. Any comments, questions?
Yeah, I just have a couple of comments. And I know from what I'm hearing from Desiree, I know probably something maybe this month we can talk about a little bit more of those things also. So how can we make it even better? And some of the things you just mentioned a while ago, Rob, is great how you've been bringing more teachers into the plan. I will tell anybody, and I'm sure everybody watching the news and from what I can see our work at also, this is new to everybody. So there's a whole lot of bumps in the road out there. But how do we get past those bumps in the road? How we are willing to communicate and with each other to work together as one out there. So it is a hard job. But let me assure you, if we can do anything to support you, like I said, we can talk about here. You can tell us what things out there that we need to give you. I know the reservation, I'm not sure if there's anything we can do about internet, but if there's something that we can look into the future, we can use this time now as planning for the future. Hopefully it won't happen again, but we don't know. But
We are actually NAU has a hotspot grant that we're locating our hotspots. We kind of know where they are based on our kids that ride the bus. They know when to turn on their phones and turn off their phones and those kind of things. So Helene and the bus drivers know where some of those places are. They're we know they're where they are along the road, but we know deeper that is even worse.
exactly.
Far off the road, several miles off the road, it's even worse. And all along, work with Tom O'Halloran's office. I believe this is a civil rights issue, that there's not equal access to the internet. And I know Jack Jackson, who's part of the Tom O'Halloran's office, that actually the liaison at the Navajo Nation. I know they were working on that from the Fed side as well. So, considering we only got fiber in Page a year and a half ago, I'm optimistic that if we do open up late, that we'll have a lot more resources out there. Because it's really
grants out there we can use something.
everything that I read, this is a kind of a wake-up call, especially for the educational community. They did a research the other day, and they're 60, maybe, no, split that. About 40% of all American kids do not have access to the internet. It's a very high number, and particularly in the rural areas, as you know. But even some of my friends in Maricopa County will tell you that people in the middle of Phoenix don't all have access to the internet, and but they do have access to Starbucks. So it's kind of interesting that. So yeah, it's a problem everywhere. I'm not making excuses saying us too, but I'm just glad that it's a wake up call to the educational community to have equal access. And again, I truly believe it's a civil rights issue as much as it is just not an equal access.
And I do agree. I don't think you're looking for excuses. But I believe, like you mentioned earlier, that with Deborah, we have a great amount of experience, great amount of feedback, and we can take that, we can utilize that to plan for the future to make things better. Your job is unbelievable. Okay, so what you have to cover, what you got to do out there, and I appreciate that. I think we can help you to make that better. And by using that information, and using those people in the community and everything else, you can't do it by yourself. So every time we have opportunities, we can give feedback to make a difference. I think we owe that to you.
Yeah, it's been interesting since the day we got back from spring break. This thing has caused emotions across the spectrum, from anger to fear, everything in between. I've seen it the last couple of weeks. A lot of it some of it was directed at me, which is fine. I have big shoulders, but you know, the only way we can get through this is get through this together. Create solutions together. So I want to thank the team, the administrative team, who've been in contact quite a bit. Of course, I already appreciate the team up here and food services as well. The food services people have been absolutely amazing. And I told them today, at the end of this, we need to have a party for the food service workers, because they are the stars, and there's a lot of people that I'm not aware of that are doing things that are amazing out there. And there's a lot of people stepping up, and our prayers and thoughts for those people who are sick, or caring for sick folks, because we have a lot of people in the district doing that as well. So be an interesting time, and like you said, it's the first time in my lifetime or your lifetime that we've ever seen anything like this that shut down the whole country, short of being at war. And so it's been a challenge, absolutely.
I have a question. So Bob Weiss, who was working in food services, was infected during spring break?
Prior to spring break. It came as a, correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, I believe it was identified as pneumonia at first.
Okay.
So he was not with those that group, that spring break group, but we wanted to, because no one was sure about the science behind COVID, how long the incubation period was, how long, if you were exposed, how long did it take you to be sick. So we try to stay within those guidelines to make sure everyone was symptomatic free, and they were. So that's when we started working on the new plan.
Okay. But back to Ed, you just mentioned communication. I think that's definitely a priority, is communication and having everyone on the same page, especially as board members. But I do want to say that Superintendent Varner and I had spoken yesterday, and one of the things that we were talking about is, just listening to some of the input that was given from staff members and parents and students, the miscommunication, of how, or the misinterpretation of school clothes. And a lot of, students are taking that as school is officially done and over with for the, later the school year. So not recognizing that school structures, school buildings are closed, but education continues. So there's that miscommunication or misinterpretation there. But one of the things that I had mentioned to Rob is having that not conference, but a phone call to parents to have that translated in Navajo into the net language, and that definitely would.
I have 3 people coming Friday that will do an announcement for me. That's one of the things I have on our agenda. One of them will do an announcement with Suzanne. Just reoccurring announcement. School's not closed. We're still learning. You can't just
Yes,
don't shut it down.
definitely.
So that's going to happen on Friday.
Definitely, and my biggest concern was next school year. I mean, how far back are we with our students if we're not retaining the information or, have access to books and so forth. But more importantly, I think we still need to iterate that we still need to continue reading. And then even as far as parent involvement, I mean, I hope that we also share parent involvement ideas that we can share with families, especially those that don't have access to the packets or even to Google Classroom. But more importantly, I mean, it comes back to us as parents as well too, and having that involvement is very important. And for me, I have taken other options with my children and having them read and doing other things at home because, just from my prior experience doing homeschooling with my boys. But again, I think this is a blessing in disguise, and definitely, take the opportunity to spend that time, for families to spend the time with their family, children, more importantly, with their children, and reconnecting and also reading anything. I mean, hands-on writing. We're learning cursive.
Have fun.
Yes. I think those are mainly my questions, but I think Dee, you had mentioned earlier that you wanted to know numbers as far as, sorry, my son keeps calling.
Yeah, I have that on my note. I have that in my notes. That's the principles.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the part where, I noticed when I was visiting
Use the microphone, Dee, sorry.
when I've been visiting the classroom this past school year, I see a lot of computers, kind of like in little file cabinets. How many of those were given out to the students that don't have computers to do the work?
For each of those cabinets, I believe there's 30 computers in each cabinet. None of them come with the power cord. The power cord is in the cabinet.
Okay.
And there's no carrying cases. I think, Brian, you said about $60 for a case and a power cord. So if you look at the math on that, so what we're focusing on, again, is getting seniors to graduation, making sure they have credits that they need to graduate. And we're really working with the kids that are behind, both at Manson Mason and Page High School. With our
Do
seniors,
we have a number?
I can get those numbers for you, but I know that Ann Martin is working, and her team is working really with those kids that need the credits to get to graduation, that may be behind or at the semester break, they were carrying a D or an F in the second semester, so get those kids to get that credit so they can graduate with their class is one of the priorities that we have right now.
See, I have a follow-up with that. For myself as a parent, I did email with some of the teachers, but also I was able to connect with the principal. What's her name again?
Counselor.
Oh, I'm sorry, the
Ms.
counselor,
Jones.
Mrs. Jones. And so Mrs. Jones definitely broke it down for me, and she mentioned that tier 1, she has a tier 1, tier 2, and a tier 3. So for tier 1, it's basically week 1, looking into actually reaching out to all of the seniors, and then being a priority, making sure that they were going to be in the road to graduation. Tier 2 are those that are not passing with a 60 or above. So that was her tier 2, and those conversations should be happening this week. And then anyone that is passing, she will plan to put them into tier 3, so that communication will happen. But I would like to hear from our middle school, Desert View, and Lakeview as well too. I know there was,
Yes.
again, communication is definitely a big barrier, especially if phone numbers are not up to date in our system.
And we're finding that for disconnected numbers because, like I said earlier, when people are in financial straits, they're not going to pay their phone bill. That's the one.
We've also had a lot of parents who have blocked And Suzanne, when she runs that report, you can see every one of those numbers that have belonged to the district.
Oh,
And
wow.
there are a lot of them.
Is there a way that we can make that communication as well in Navajo to unblock, have that connection? Parents, please have that connection with your teachers. It is very important.
I know that the radio has been our friend. I know that Steve worked closely with the newspaper as well. But then, I mean, people read the Chronicle. I don't know what their circulation is, but and then everyone, it seems like even though they block our number, they still have access to us on Facebook because they see that on occasion. So I'll work with Lino or Teresa or Michelle to do a public service announcement in Navajo on Friday with Suzanne.
Maybe there could be something that we put out at the, chapter houses or something out there, some flyers or something, just something that.
Chapter houses are all closed.
Yeah, the chapter houses are all closed.
Yeah, they're having difficulties communicating as well. I've talked to all of them, and the Scripture House is working a couple hours a day, but they're not open to the public. But most of them are just flat out shut down. The government offices are pretty much shut down.
Definitely. I would like to also use the platform for the caucus on my part with the Arizona School Board Association, and I have made that communication as well too, is to have that conversation, open communication again, and hear other school districts across the state, their insight as far as the barriers. And I definitely would like to use our.
Both Larry and I have had conference calls with the rural superintendents. I had a conference call, 2 conference calls now with the superintendents of Coconino and Navajo County, and we have greater barriers than they do at this point. I think we are our numbers quadruple forward in Winslow's numbers. In fact, Winslow have very few cases at all. So we have a lot more barriers than those 2 school districts for sure. And then Kathy Hoffman, on occasion, will have the rural districts or rural schools have a conference call with her. They'll let her, but she's in Metro Phoenix. I mean, they have it all down there, and so she really wanted to know how it was impacting us, and so now she has a clear picture.
Definitely. I mean, just even in rural communities, our demographics are very different as well from one community to the next. I mean, with Coppermine, we are definitely spread out quite a bit. With, Lachie, it's much smaller, and so is Kaibito as well too. And so, I mean, again, I just really, really advocate for our rural communities, and especially with our remote, children living out in these areas. It is so different. The challenges, again, the barriers that we continuously, I talk about and advocate at ASBA and even with Impact Schools, but more importantly, I think that we need to have a stronger voice so that we are definitely represented and heard at the state level as well too.
Back to you, Bob.
All right, folks. Hey, very well, and welcome on board.
Thank you.
They have you, now get to work.
Okay. We got them working already, Bob.
I know you guys have. Item number 7.
No, we're at 9.
You have a motion.
You mean item number 9? Or I'm sorry, future agenda item.
Now, we have future agenda items. Anybody have anything right now?
Hey, Bob, I just need a couple action items on the 28th. I know that's tricky to set up a special meeting, but we have domino effects right now that we need to get a couple, 1, 2, 3 items that we need to get approved on the 28th, if that's possible.
Okay.
You just don't want to violate open meeting laws, but so we have to be careful how we work on that.
Okay, well, we can do that, right?
All right.
Anybody else have anything that you, want to bring up your future items to, put on our work study session or something?
Not at the moment.
Yeah. All right, not having any further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 6:44. Desiree Feller.
I second that motion, Judy Carey.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Bye.
Thank you guys very much for being available and, bearing with us with regard to communication and all that, but I know that a lot of hard work went into making sure we could hear and communicate, so thank you all who did that, so appreciate you. So, hey, look forward to seeing you. Everyone be safe.
Okay. You got signature form?